Whoo! We're secretly on. Let's check.
Let's chat to our only audience member. Yeah.
Yay. What? No audiences yet.
Is someone there? Sweet.
Let's countdown. Ooh, welcome to Lightbox, the official podcast of the Wenimate, Western Australian Animation Association. Whether you're an aspiring animator, a seasoned professional, or simply a fan of the magical world of animation, you've come to the right place. My name is Tanya Beeson.
I'm David O'Connell.
I'm Lindsay Flay.
And we'll be your guide on this monthly journey into the heart of the animation industry in Western Australia. Each month, Lightbox will bring you the latest and greatest in animation news, from upcoming films and shows to industry discussions that will inspire, empower the talented animators who call Western Australia home. We'll also delve into the creative processes, challenges faced by our local animators as they work tirelessly to bring their unique visions to life. And we saw some of that last week. Very cool.
Yes, we did.
So buckle up, get ready to be amazed as we explore the vibrant, ever-evolving world of West Australian animation. This is Lightbox, and we're just getting started. We wish to acknowledge and honour the traditional custodians of the land we are streaming from, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation. We recognise and celebrate their enduring culture, the rich tapestry of Indigenous arts, and the invaluable contributions they make to the vibrancy and cultural diversity of this city and region.
And before we dive into today's content, I'd just like to issue a quick advisory warning. While our channel is generally suitable for most audiences, there may be occasion when we delve into topics that will showcase content that might not be appropriate for younger viewers. We strive to create an engaging and enjoyable content for everyone, but please be advised some material may not be suitable for children. So parental discretion is advised, and we encourage you to review the content before sharing it with younger audiences. Our goal is to provide a safe and enjoyable viewing experience for all, and we appreciate your understanding and support in this regard. Alrighty, let's get down to it.
Hi. Oh, there we are on screen.
Hello.
Cool. Okay, so let me bring up all these slides, shall we? Get us off to the side and kick it into the news.
The news by Rabid Luby.
Yeah.
Yes.
You know. Well, he's getting a little bit more out there at the moment whenever I get some spare time to do some sketches. Yes. So also, or whenever the Wenimate secretary Travis, for any of you who've actually ever caught up with him, demands that I provide him with a new image of Luby for some reason, marketing reasons, for whatever. Anyway, excellent. On to the news. Studio Gainax.
So, it's been a while since. Yeah, so best known for Evangelion, obviously, but Secret of Blue Water, Fully Cooley, Wings of Honemaeus, big studio, and might be no more.
So, what was the cause of death?
So
unable to support itself, or what?
I haven't delved into the autopsy, but. Well, it's been a while since they've had something big. I mean, with the exception of the rebuild of Evangelion, what else has been going on from them? But if that's enough to destroy such a prestige studio, yeah.
Re-releasing Evangelion?
Okay, better news. We've got a date for Memoir of the Snail coming to cinemas on October 17th.
Adam Elliott,
which should be interesting. I I think has that started at MIF yet or not?
It's imminent.
I think it's. I think people have been seeing.
I know it's like the second film of the day, so I don't know if it's screened yet or not.
Yeah.
But yeah, looking forward to that. We've had an announcement that Lord of the Rings War of the Rohirrim will be slated for December release, so that should be interesting.
Not far away.
Dungeon Messi Season 2. Yeah, we've got Dungeon Messi Season 2 announced. That's great news for me because that's I'm in the intersection point of D&D player and lover of food. So yeah, it's perfect anime. We've had Ghostbusters animated greenlit for Netflix. So that's coming out later on the track. We've had Hannah Minghella take over as Netflix head of feature animation. So I think she was previously with Sony Animation and working behind the scenes there. And was it The Boy, the Horse, and the Mole? She was involved with as well. So that was Oscar-nominated film for short from 2022.
That's a gorgeous.
Okay. Yeah, it looks it, and Hiddleston is one of the voice talents behind that as well. So yeah, it'll be interesting. I haven't caught it, I have to admit, but yeah. Demon Slayer. I'm not going to massacre the Japanese title there, so apologies. But the Infinity Castle.
Yeah, we need Mike Lee to read that for us.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, Yes, my Duolingo is not that far along, I'm afraid. So basically, the Castle saga has been announced as 3 movies to mark the series conclusion. So I'm very much looking forward to that. That's one of the things I've been following this season, slowly, and making my way through it. So yeah.
Okay.
We've had a major leak of anime from Netflix. A number of series. The only one we're mentioning so far is coming up is Terminator Zero is one of those, which is coming out later August.
So it's all stuff coming from Japanese studios that's leaked, or is it animation across the board?
It seems like it's anime related. So I'd say it's Japanese studios from what I've been seeing. Terminator Zero seems to be very. I'm not sure who's involved in it, but Terminator Zero seems to be very anime focused as far as anime stylistics. So yeah, and there's series that are coming out in like 2 or 3 months' time that have had half their series leaked online already. So it's big.
Yeah.
And finally, a bit of sad news, I'm afraid. Rachel Lillis, so for all the Pokemon fans out there, and those of the age that they remember Pokemon, the voice of Misty and Jessie in Pokemon, she's passed away at the age of 55 just a few days ago, I'm afraid.
Crikey. What the hell?
Yeah.
Excuse the French, but F cancer. Yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
Jeez.
So, yeah.
Not great.
Wow. Pokemon people are passing away at near 60s. Good grief.
Yeah.
It's enough to make you feel old. It's
like she's been involved in a lot of voiceover work for anime, but that's probably the 2 roles that she'd be best remembered for.
Yes.
Wow.
So Jesse and James no longer coming at you at the speed of light?
No.
Sad.
No.
Cool.
No.
Okay.
Okay.
Before we go
Let's move on to what's coming soon.
Hold on. Before we go
yeah. Oh, yeah, of course. Sorry, I'm stepping on your lines.
Jumping over the 3:30 animation competition, which we recently held. And of course, it's our local news. So we had 3 winners and they were announced on the night. So the 3:30 animation competition school category was won by Eden Delu with Red versus Green. It's a great little piece, stop motion. For those of us who do love stop motion, and
indeed,
it was like awesomely animated for a school age person. So
very smooth, very slick.
Kudos to the participant and to the school that supported him, John Curtin College of the Arts, as well. Our tertiary winners were not Western Australians. They were a group from Newcastle University in the animation department over there with When Chickens Fly. So Annalise, pronunciation of those names, I apologize. I'm
Terralink.
Terralink, Aiden Seas,
Hassan
and
Owen Mackenzie.
Owen Mackenzie's is the hardest to pronounce. Although he seemed a little bit down on it himself, John Park has won the open category with Liberté, which was a great little piece. So he kind of lucked on to a successful film when he wasn't feeling that it was possibly his best piece of work. So very, very cool. Just goes to show the simple ideas are often the best, and if they're executed in just a smooth, simple way, it often is a great thing. So cool. So that's our 3:30 winners. All the films are up on the Wanimate YouTube. You can check out every single entry, including the winners. And it's all good. Just as an additional thing in terms of things that I've been drawing. Hey, check out our new laurels for winning films for the 3:30. It's animated. It's very cool. So
excellent.
Yes. And on to the next slide. Okay, let's talk about the upcoming, Dave, since you're so keen.
Okay, let's pause for a second because we've been away for a month now, and there's a lot that's come out over that period.
What?
So I'm just going to take a breath and go through all that. Some of which come out. Well, yeah. Look, okay, a new anime season has. Yeah. Okay, so we've had the launch of a new anime season. I think that's summer that's come. We've got a whole bunch of Macross that's made its way to Disney Plus. Like we're talking about a dozen odd series of Macross that's just kind of dropped over the past month there. We've got a new season of American Dad. We've a new season of Dragon Prince come out. We've had a new season of Futurama. We've had 2 Australian movies with Sloth Lane and 200% Wolf come out. We've got Saving Bikini Bottom, the Sandy Cheeks movie is dropped. And my personal favourite, we've had Batman Caped Crusader. The entire series dropped on Prime recently. So, yeah.
Yes, it has been endlessly talked about in chat channels.
Yeah, apologies. Yes, I like it, but I'm assuming some people are.
Oh, it's not just you. You've all seen the entire thing, and I haven't even touched an episode yet.
Yeah, sounds familiar.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
Okay.
People with time on their hands. God damn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I am writing a review for it. So, well, it's actually in, so expect to see something soon.
So Sandy Cheeks is out as well, and and 200% Wolf in. So awesome to local animators here in WA. So 200% Wolf. So that's up in cinemas. Well done for everyone who's got involved. I even saw that several friends were working in other capacities on the film, so it's pretty cool. Other than animators,
Okay, cool.
Very cool. Cool.
Yeah. Well, that's going to be part of the discussion we're going to be having for our monthly topic, but we might save that for a couple of minutes and just go through what else is coming on. So we've got the new season of Young Jedi Adventures dropping on Disney. We've got Sailor Moon Cosmos, which I believe is a Sailor Moon movie coming to Netflix on the 22nd.
Mm-hmm.
We've also got the re-release, but in 4K, of Ghost in the Shell 2 Innocence in cinemas. So if you like big bombastic anime, and it is a fantastic piece to watch, not up to the original, but still interesting, go see that. We've got on the 29th, Terminator Zero launching on Netflix. The 29th, we've also got Shaun the Sheep, the movie. We've got the Lion King 30th anniversary edition coming to the cinemas again, so get to see either of those in the cinemas. We've got and finally on the 29th, we've got Detective Conan, the $1 Million Pentagram, launching in the cinemas as well. So a Detective Conan adventure, which has been a while.
Okay.
31st, we've got the Emperor's New Groove, getting a cinema showing. On the 5th of September, we have Kitsu Monogatari. Sorry.
Yeah. So
Kiyomi So a vampire or series of 3 vampire films from early 2000s, 2010, somewhere around that period of time. So vampire punk aesthetic, little touch of Japanese anime and cyberpunk thrown together. That should be fun. I've got to admit, I haven't seen them, so I'm curious to see what that's like. Yeah. September 19th, Wild Robots coming on. So,
woohoo! Super excited.
I'm looking. Yeah, I'm a maniac because I would have loved it to be something with minimal dialogue in the sort of the vein of Primal, but we got animals that can speak, but it looks fantastic. It just looks so beautiful.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous film.
And
same thing. I was hoping that it would have that minimal dialogue in this, but yeah. But
the trailer's very talky.
It still looks gorgeous. So yeah,
it does. It still looks incredible. So I'm very, very, very curious to see that and eager to see that. And speaking of eager to see, Transformers 1, yeah, I'll be down for that. Early adventures of Transformers pre the war.
So Optimus and Megatron are friends. Is he called Orion Pax in this?
Yep.
Oh dear.
Okay.
So they're like back in school days.
I think he might be Orion Pax. Bumblebee's not Bumblebee. Bumblebee's just known by the B designation in this one. So yeah, it should be interesting. Cool. It's obviously not going to be the hardcore sort of origin stories you get in things like RDW. So it's not going to be Slave Megatron or anything like that. And Decepticons starting as a people's uprising initially. But yeah, we'll see how we go.
True. Cool. So yes, all awesome stuff coming out. I should mention before we duck into today's topic, which we got through the news in 19 minutes, guys. Well done. Very cool.
Yeah, sort of powerful.
But in terms of things coming up, also. Beginning of September, end of the month, we've got Cinefest Oz. Wenamate's relationship with Cinefest is important to us. So if you get a chance, go down to the festival in Busselton from the 1st to the 8th, I think it is, or the 31st to the 7th, I think, off the top of my head. Check out the Cinefest Oz website, and perhaps I'll see you down there and checking out things. I'm doing some workshops and doing some meet and greets. So awesome.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. The great debate. Well, this is more of a discussion because, it's kind of the close to our heart topic of Australian animation. Do you want to run into the basic history for us, Dave?
Yep. Okay. I should state we're just keeping it simple this time. We're looking at films, so features and short films, mainly features. Because once we go into TV series, we've got a whole separate.
Not only that, we got like people
to...
who are doing things as sub animations for other TV series, plus web animators.
And we've got fairly strong web animating community as well, and some well known pieces there. So All right, so let's look at the basics though. So this one's difficult because we've had a lot. Okay, anyone that knows anything about early film knows that it's quite explosively degradable at times, depending on what medium it's stored on, and there also wasn't a culture of preservation necessary around for a lot of film and TV at the early stages, going on till even the 60s and 70s. So it's piecing together. But so it's likely the first animation was 1950s Cartoon of the Moment by Harry Julius, and it was basically I think it was more to help animate some news articles. So the usual newsreel sort of footage that would have bits and pieces put in to animate that sort of thing.
1915.
So, he himself built 1915, yes. So he built a Sydney-based studio, Cartoon Filmers, and they mainly worked in animation for advertising, but also, as I said, in news-related reels and things along those lines. But there's possibility of earlier.
We're talking early times around like Winsor McKay and the early pioneers in animation. So very, very cool stuff.
Yeah, and it's weird to think Australia's had over 100 years of animation history. A lot of the early animators would have come out of things like lightning sketch artists. So if you could imagine someone actually on stage drawing for people in the audience and trying to quickly draw out something very, very quickly there. Just general illustrators and cartoonists for political fare. Those were basically the crowd that was brought in to do advertising. And we've had a very strong ties to advertising community, as you'll see going forwards. Like the first feature film was not until 1972, which was Marco Polo versus the Red Dragon, but it was by Eric Porter. So he's probably best known for things like Bertie the Airplane from Airplane Jelly days, and of course Louis the Fool.
I like Airplane Jelly.
Yes, which you'd well know. Okay, in 1976, though, a few years after that, we won our first Academy Award for Leisure, which is a short film. Our first Academy Award for animation, I should state, which for leisure in the short film categories. And again, that's an area Australia has done very well in. So how many Academy Awards have we actually won through animation?
Bruce Petty,
Yeah. So what, we've won, is it 2 or 3? Because we've got, was it Harvey Crumpet?
That's
Harvey
one.
We've had
Leisure.
Leisure.
Jeez. I am trying to think of anything else. Like
was the Sean Town related short? Was it Lost and Found?
The Lost Thing.
Lost Thing.
Is that a winner?
Yeah.
Yes.
Quick to the internets.
Yeah, I'd completely blanked on Sean Tan's film.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of. Just drew a blank.
And of course, we've had a number of nominations as well in that regard.
Yeah, wasn't there one? An ostrich told me the world was fake, and I believed it, or something. That's the one.
That was We didn't we actually interview one of the directors for that.
I need to go off and see that.
All right, so there has. So let's leap ahead. 1977. Dot and the Kangaroo, which is probably one of the best known sort of series. I know.
Yoram Gross at his finest.
I loved those films as a kid. I think Camel Boy stood out as my favorite of the Yoram Gross films, but the Dot and the Kangaroo, I watched them. They were great.
I remember being dragged to it by my parents.
I remember just looking, going, God, those backgrounds are realistic.
Wonder why.
I was trapped in a long episode of Skippy. But
then we got to talk about Yoram Gross as well, because
he was the leading light for so long, wasn't he?
Yeah, exactly. And it's still, was it Flying Bark?
Flying Bark still goes.
So Flying Bark is the studio now. So
they're doing great work.
There's a lot of history there, and they're doing amazing things at the moment. It's really
big fans.
Really good to see. So, and they're getting a bit of representation from Western Australia, and a lot of our animators are over there working on it. So.
Yeah, 100% Wolf. Apparently, the town looks very much like Fremantle in parts. If you
nice. You can sit out there with a sketchbook and do your designs in Freo while you're sitting and having coffee.
Okay, so obviously, Dot and the Kangaroo. We had 8 sequels for that, from 81 to 94, going ahead, and that was kind of how probably in some ways that's probably one of the most representative of how Australian animation was kind of viewed as well. Very, very sort of Australiana in the classic sort of sense.
I mean, you essentially needed a foreigner like Yoram Gross to really latch onto the Australiana and sell it, because around that time, before Australia became this weirdly Americanized patriotic place, there's a bit of cultural cringe about Australiana. I can remember from my childhood. There's still a little bit of that. But sort of been replaced by weird patriotism.
But also the late 70s, early 80s in film, we were definitely defining ourselves by historical sort of a lot of it was historical leanings. Man from Snowy River is the classic example.
It was a phase we had to go through, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
You've got a couple of older ad style references, like the Slip Slop Slap and the Louis the Fly reference.
Yeah, actually, that comes a little bit later or not. We're looking at. I'll leap ahead to that. Actually, I'll just pause for a moment. 1982 to 89. This is something that we're not going to see again, because it's not how we consume media nowadays. But we had Burbank Films Australia release a score of classic literature pieces based on TV. I'll try again. Let's try. A score of classic literature-based TV movies. So made specifically, I think it was for, got to have been one of the big ones at the time, 7 or 9. I think it was 7. So it was things like a lot of Dickens, a lot of Sherlock Holmes, but even Tolstoy would get a piece. So you've got like 20 odd movies going through just an hour and a half based on that classic sort of literature, and that's we just never would get nowadays released. And different ways of consuming media. Absolutely.
One of the big pieces that I remember from like the 60s and 70s was the change of decimal currency short, which and the jingle that went with it. So the dollar bill character and the 14th of February 1966. Yeah,
that's it. A big one for those that in the 70s and 80s, because in 83 and 84 we've got Abracadabra released, and in 84 Grendel. So basically Beowulf from the monster's point of view, and the monster being voiced by Peter Ustinov, I think it was. And it was by Alexander Stilt and Philip Adams. So the people responsible for things like Slip, Slop, Slap.
That's it.
Like being its norm.
It was a strange movie, that's for sure. Very interesting.
Yeah, it's weird that it came like the look of Grendel looks more like something from the 70s.
It looks like early 70s, late 60s, early 70s. It's got that slightly. Yeah, it's like someone refined the whole slip, slop, slap, slash norm look to its nth degree.
It looks like very sort of Yellow Submarine inspired as well. That sort of mushroom or acid trip basis of animation. But yeah, it's very curious.
It's an odd one. Definitely worth having a look at least once. There was a whole generation of Australian animation that looked a bit like that. It was like late 60s, early 70s. And, and they sort of carried on. Essentially, I was trained up in Swinburne by David Atkinson, who was sort of part of that crowd. And he was a great lecturer and teacher, very quietly spoken, very solid guy.
Hopefully that's something we can get into when we take a look at like the TV series, because we're gonna have to do a follow up of either looking at TV series or independent animation. One of those two topics. We'll both probably do both of those topics at some stage.
I think we should, because for a while there, Australia was the South Korea of TV animation for people like Hanna-Barbera.
Yeah.
And so a lot of big old TV shows like the original Flintstones and the original, was it Scooby-Doo? Or am I getting my cartoons mixed up? A lot of that stuff was produced or churned out
depends on
Sydney.
when it started. So
yeah.
And
so a lot of the Australian post-production basically grew up from that footprint. So when Hanna-Barbera eventually left, it left this huge pool of talent behind, who then went off and developed their own studios and went off and essentially established a lot of what we take for granted now. So,
Disney Studios started back in the 90s in Australia.
Yep. So I want to go for it.
They grew out of it. They grew out of that Hanna-Barbera closing down as far as I was aware. So
yeah. Well, okay, so we'll just finish off that sort of Australiana sort of thing. With 92, we had the release of Blinky Bill, the Mischievous Koala. And 2000s, we saw the big budget release of The Magic Pudding, which unfortunately did not do well in the box office in any way, shape, or form.
Is it a dated story, though?
Yes.
I remember The Magic Pudding being read to us when we were young. It was I don't think any kids would know about The Magic Pudding these days.
I think it's a bit like, I always associated stuff like that with the demise of the Bulletin magazine. There's this kind of, so when you see the Bulletin magazine, you see this kind of direct history right back to the 1800s, but it's a very conservative, very, what's the word I guess we'd use now, colonialist sort of perspective.
Yeah. Very much.
And all that's gone now. I think when we went through the whole pioneer film stage in the 70s and 80s. We were sort of like kind of exercising all that stuff and kind of processing and working it through as we sort of worked out our own culture again. But a lot of that stuff, like the magic pudding, is very much part of that idea that, oh, Australia's a young country, it's empty, it's nothing going on, and blah 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 blah. It's like, well, actually, no, and it would be a bit of a bad fit in this day and age, I think. So when I see films or when I see stories like that, some of those old stuff I grew up with in my childhood, I don't think it ages terribly well unless you see it in context of that history at the time.
Yeah.
So making a sort of mainstream movie of that would have been a little difficult, mainly because audiences outside of the country probably didn't get it.
Yeah. Also, during the 70s, 80s, 90s, we did have a kind of identity crisis, but we also had quite some urban movies coming out of Australia.
Absolutely.
That were much more modern set. And that seems to become more and more our identity as we're going on, which is understandable because it's majority of the population really does live there. I mean, so
by the late 70s, early 80s, we got things like the Mad Max films coming out, which are largely defining a lot of sci-fi fantasy stuff, which, we'd never seen before. And it was a uniquely our own vision and our own character up there on screen. It wasn't trying to look nostalgic or anything like that.
Or contemporary things like Dogs in Space or Malcolm, or later on things like Head On, speaking to different cultures again. We've
definitely moved forward and definitely moved on. So this stuff, I think, looks quaint, and I'm not sure how you'd kind of update it or how you'd go about doing it. But
Towards the end of the 80s, there was also a little stop motion film that was released across.
Yeah, I've heard of it actually. There was
across
the other Lego movie we're talking about, are we?
It's nice when Tanya name drops you. It's that's I guess turned out to be quite surprisingly influential, although I never imagined it would do at the time. And that, of course, is the Magic Portal. But
we're looking at the slide with Happy Feet on, and that's just the thing. That I love that you are more famous for the Magic Portal than you are for your other work.
Phew.
It just feels so right.
Okay.
I have to say, I'm happy for that myself, to be deep down and honest with you. Although it does feel like that. I feel like that old, the old American folk singer who made one hit in 1956 or something and can never escape it. Everywhere I go, hey, play that old song again. Like, no, go away. But anyway, if that's what I'm going to get remembered for, I don't mind. So
there's worse epitaphs. There really is.
That's true.
All right. So should we use that because we've kind of reached the end of that sort of very much Australiana defined by that sort of colonialism sort of era for that. Yeah. And we're starting to reach that other era. Should we pause for a moment and just discuss what actually constitutes an Australian animated film with international co-productions? I think as constituting an Australian film, it has to run in the same way that we basically claim things, like the same way we claim all of New Zealand's achievements. Until they embarrass us, and we can shove them back.
Then we can dump them. Yeah, bloody New Zealanders. I don't know. Well, if you're looking at big scale animation, then things like Happy Feet were definitely part of that approach. I know when we were working on Happy Feet at Animal Logic, one of the things that seemed to be very important in the early phases of the production was that they were establishing a unique look to it. So it didn't look like a Pixar film or a Sony animation film or something like that. And the look they kind of went for was a sort of photorealistic David Attenborough look.
I thought Happy Feet grew out of the Babe films, especially the sequel. Like so George doing what are ultimately kids movies, but because Pig in the City uses weird pastiches of the various cities for in the backgrounds, where you can see the Eiffel Tower and the Empire State Building in the same shot, kind of deal. Like, it's some weird choices, and then you got Happy Feet, which goes for, like you said, the David Attenborough realistic look.
Part of that was just differentiating ourselves, and part of that was also establishing a look and feel that was kind of uniquely animal, I think, and something that was a bit more contemporary than just rehashing old Disney.
There was plenty of studios in Australia rehashing old Disney at the time.
Oh yeah.
Well, Disney themselves.
Yes. Yeah. When did they actually establish? Because it's the early 2000s.
I'm pretty sure they grew out of the Hanna-Barbera studios. So a lot of the people moved from Hanna-Barbera to Disney.
I've got to admit, I don't know much about it myself, and mainly because if I did come across somebody who had worked in Disney, it was always a surprise to hear that they'd been working in Australia in Disney. We'll have to get Steve Grant on board again, interrogate him, I think.
We need to talk to Steve. Steve, if you're watching, we need you. Give us a call. Yeah. We'll log you in now. So
thank you, caller.
I was more around the time, because my career was just getting started. The time the Disney studio in Sydney was closing down.
Oh, right.
So that's kind of why I had the advantage of being taught by Steve Grant and things like that. So it was very, very cool to have someone, with that skill set, but also a little bit sad that the Disney studios were just not going anymore. And they were really pumping out the straight-to-video sequels.
Yeah. 20 or so sequels get released at
that. There was a lot. That's a lot.
There was a lot of them. So because you had three Aladdin films, you had The Lion King, you had a Little Mermaid sequel. I think everything up to Tarzan during that time period. Beauty and the Beast sequel, ultimately Disney closed down its external 2D studios like Sydney and Paris and I can't remember.
Well, in the late 90s, early noughties, there was a really good exchange rate between Australia and the US, and that attracted a lot of production to Sydney and Melbourne and Queensland and Brisbane, I should say. Oh, and South Australia too, with Rising Sun. So I have a feeling that might have been a contributing factor.
Film studio as well being set up. So there's a bit of Fox Studios in Sydney. So.
And was there government tax rebates offered at the time as well?
I think so. Nothing as crazy as the 10BA stuff from the 70s, where I think at one point they had a 150% rebate if you made a film. And of course, that's why we have so many terrible Australian grindhouse films from that period. They were literally just tax write-offs, pretending to be a production.
Yeah. Although it's not an animation, check out Grindhouse, a documentary about that time period. Amazing. Yeah,
this is what has endeared us to Tarantino ever since. But and there were some great Australian grind films, things you could never make these days, like The Man from Hong Kong, for example, doing kung fu fights and stunts on top of what was then known as Ayers Rock.
I think also, let's face it, OHS might have been
it hasn't aged well.
A little bit less stringent at the time.
Yeah, appalling racism passed off as progressivism. It's like, oh my god. It's like, anyway, keep going. Oh, here we go.
Right. So, okay. So should we mention Legend of the Guardians as well? Just to say that
essentially a follow-up from Happy Feet.
Yep.
Guardians
made an animated movie.
So Legends of the Guardians is a different film. You're thinking of the Guardians of Gahul.
Oh,
sorry, the Owls of Gahul.
Yeah, it's not a great film.
It's not.
It's not.
It's got it's kind of peculiar.
Um,
It looks awesome though, but yeah, it's
Oh,
very
no,
strange.
totally amazingly beautiful films in terms of the level of detail. But yeah, it's kind of
Strange.
story, fucking story. I think is the
I
catch
was
cry.
trying to catch on to the sort of Harry Potter related sort of buzz at the time, and
Sort of, but yeah.
So the studios have been going big guns since 2000, 2004 onwards. Really, with basically everyone's been ramping up. We got through the Matrix films, which let's face it, they're animated.
Meow.
Oh, no, come on.
They are. I mean, there's probably more animation in some of those films than Pixar, I think, in terms of how much stuff's going on.
You worked on several of them. Like
I worked on one of them.
No, well, Charlotte's Web. You worked.
Oh yeah.
Some of that stuff. There's definitely a lot of animation, especially the creature animation that's going on in those films.
All the best bits I've noticed that came out of things like Superman Returns and stuff like that had been all the stuff that Rising Sun had basically pre-visualized, I think. So all that really epic stuff at the first half of the film is nearly all of the crew at Rising Sun slapping together some storyboards and some layouts, and then the director coming in and saying, "Oh, that's awesome, we'll take that." And it's like, and then when he actually did his part of the story, it was kind of like, "Oh, grand pianos and some kind of psycho killer with Luther." Like, right? Where's catching the next airliner out of the sky or all that stuff?
Well, there's something very appropriate about Kevin Spacey as Lex Luthor.
True. Yeah. But I still miss the first half of the film was such a great opening, and then the second half was like, meh. But some epic soup stuff with catching a plane in a baseball field. I loved it. Completely silly. It was good, but
nice way to think about physics there, as opposed to just having him flying under an engine and don't ask, just fly.
Look! It's like when he stops a train dead in its tracks to save, someone tied to the tracks. He doesn't end up with all the carriages going through the engine or anything. It's magic, mate. So,
okay, indeed. All right, so
superheroes are magical creatures. Get used to that, kids.
Who have we got functioning still as production studios at the moment? I can see Maya the Bee there, which is 2014, which Flying Bark, I believe, and of course recently done 200% Wolf.
So Flying Bark is, Yoram Gross is essentially rising to be this 2D animation powerhouse across Australia and the world. Maya the Bee, of course, being the Polish franchise. And there's been several versions of it over the years, 2D. Yeah. This is the 3D version. I mean,
look, if this is where Australian animation is, we're doing pretty well, I think.
It's all kids, young kids movies.
Yeah, it does seem to be better that way. We've had another Blinky Bill movie in 2015. 2019, Wishmas Tree. So that's like a photo for Queensland.
I think it's definitely a step forward from the old Dot and the Kangaroo stuff. It's contemporary. It's up to the minute. It's good.
And they've pretty much been releasing something every year almost, haven't they, as a studio? Going pretty consistent. From there. Yeah, we've had two.
I really don't know it. Wishmas Tree.
Wishmas Tree.
I think I've seen it on television, so on free to air.
Yeah, we've had. Was it Combat Wombat from them? Is it?
Okay. Yes.
I think so.
Okay. Yeah. Now I know who we're talking about. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to do a binge just to kind of catch up with all this stuff.
Yes. Yeah. Same here. I haven't watched much.
I feel like I've been stuck in TAFE teaching students, and I should know all this stuff backwards.
Yeah. And as I said, with 100% Wolf, we've had 100% Wolf, 200% Wolf, and between them we've had 2-3 seasons of animated series to Bridget. So they're doing well, very busy.
They're doing great guns.
So,
Definitely worth supporting.
It's really good. Like, and it's got its fan base out there. 100% Wolf. So awesome job, and a lot of local animators, like I was saying, working on that. I know there's several things in the pipeline that I'm not sure I'm allowed to talk about.
Well, we'll keep it secret, and we'll surprise you when it turns up.
But we'll definitely be so keen on some of the upcoming animations out of the studios. Like, go on.
Question: has the information age made it a lot easier for you to, like? There's a lot more co-productions, international co-productions happening. At this.
I think it was best said by Tom Lubin to me during and I'm not sure who he was quoting at the time, back at the FTI. Animation defies the tyranny of distance, so we can totally work with an international studio, send films back and forth. I mean, my crew worked on Tatina with a Norwegian film company, and we also did the same with what Netflix's come on brain, Arlo the Alligator Boy.
That's
so those films, although they're definitely not Australian films, got Australian crews working on them. It's
trained up a whole pile of Australian students. So.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Did we ever come up to what constitutes an Australian animated film then? Did we find a final answer to that question?
I noticed in your notes you've got, do we claim the Lego movie? Yes, absolutely, we claim the Lego movie.
Yeah, I think so.
It was made exclusively here. Lord and Miller, the fact that they're the directors, has nothing to do with it. Like, it was.
I wasn't involved in it myself, but I'm pretty sure it had an influence on that stuff.
Made here by Australian crews. So whether the directors are not Australian, but totally Australian. Like, totally Australian films.
Yep. Yeah. So I guess as an answer to that question, I would say things like Blinky Bill would definitely be 100% Australian. And I would definitely say that things like 100 and 200% Wolf would be too, because that's entirely made and conceived here.
No, not entirely conceived here.
No?
I believe the author is British. So, he's working on the series of books. So.
Right. Okay.
I did not.
It gets serious, doesn't it?
I was like Lindsay laying claim.
Well, I'll have to unlay claim to it then. And so yeah. I mean, Lego's Danish when you think about it, but
but the Lego film, the crew, all the shots were done here in Australia, and I say here, I mean the other side of this barren rock, It's definitely an Australian film. I will argue to the end of time that the Lego movie is an Australian film, and a lot of those other films that sort of came after that. I don't know. Do we count things like the Lego sequels that came after? Lego Movie 2 was. What about Lego Batman?
I would have said that was a mix, because that felt very Hollywood, or very DC, I should say, with lots of pop culture referencing. It's not to say it wasn't fun, but lots of pop culture referencing.
True, but
yeah. Anyway.
I guess we're reaching the sparkling animation sort of argument there.
Yeah. Interesting.
That's very cool. But yeah, of course we're Australian, so we're going to claim that anything that was remotely related to our shore, and is totally we will say, hey, that's Australian, even though they're most decidedly not. So, though I did see Les Mis, and I refuse to claim Russell Crowe anymore.
Okay. Thank you, Tanya.
You're welcome.
Excellent. Well, I think we've almost run our course on this one.
Yeah, I think we've come to agreement, and it's almost an hour, so we've done. We've made record time. We might actually bring it in.
We actually were
bringing
on time.
in under an hour. Look at that.
Yeah.
So we can land the plane, and there's fuel left in the engines.
Yeah. Having said that, we'll probably come back to this topic at least once more in a different format, or twice.
We definitely need to talk about the TV animation stuff and sort of delve deeper a little bit into the studios, and because the Australian studios have like Flying Bark and Urim Gross, have some interesting history going on. So,
and we've got to talk about quads and
Media World Entertainment. We need to talk about the Silver Brumby. We need to talk about quads, Dog Star.
There's also old animation series from around the Hanna-Barbera era, like the Square Knights and the Round Table, or King Arthur and the Square Knights and the Round Table, which is almost like it's almost like 60s animation, like Roger Ramjet, or inspired very much by a bit of Terry Gilliam, unless I'm mistaken, and a few other influences as well. Very much of that era, counterculture stuff.
And things that
hardly ever hear of these days, that I always imagined as a kid, because they couldn't find any references to it online. But now the NS National Film and Sound Archive, NFSA, is starting to publish this sort of stuff, which is really good. So
we can
definitely look into
totally talk about the short pieces of animation that were done like Play School. And, Bananas and Pajamas was 2D before they were guys in suits.
Well, that was the British version.
Freddo the Frog, I think, maybe as well.
Freddo Frog.
There's a Freddo Frog TV series, I think. So I'm just checking on that now. So
there might be, but I couldn't confirm that.
Like the Yowies as well, and we had lots of little things that were done for SBS. There's definitely, we could talk about Australia's online presence as well. So the web animators out there, Adam Phillips, and like Rubber Ninja, and
that's a whole episode easily.
Yeah. So
we'll probably have to talk about Bluey as well, because
yeah, I mean, we definitely need to talk about Bluey.
Well, it's the last kids show standing. I think all the commercial productions have now ceased all children's television programming or production, I should say,
in Australia.
All free to air commercial stations have basically ceased all child production. Sorry, children's TV production. I think when they lobbied to have the laws change on local content, and the moment those laws went through, it dropped to zero. Literally just ceased. It's all old people stuff now.
Surely ABC or SBS is still doing something.
They would be as part of their license, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
And also, they're one of the powerhouses on the planet for kids TV and kids TV programming, like the BBC. And I think Canadian
ABC Kids and CBeebies.
And so that's sort of legacy left over from earlier epochs setting up public broadcasters from the 1930s and 40s.
Nice.
So that's what keeps us in the game, basically. Legislation.
Okay. Well, with 30 seconds left to the hour, let's say goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.
And definitely goodbye from them.
Yeah.
See ya.
Nice.
Catch you later, Dave. See you, Tanya.
See ya. Bye.
Bye.